that people are not connected. So I think some of you may have seen this film, The King's Speech, because I think when it came out, it was very well known for all the awards that it won. And of course, Colin Firth, who is a big favourite with a lot of people, played the starring role. So I was quite interested to see what has been actually said about the movie. Time Out hated it. Time Out wrote lots of articles that were very critical about it. One of the articles I saw, I actually got a warning on my screen telling me that there might be malicious content in the website, so I decided not to use that article. But I found another article that is quite interesting, giving a slightly different view about the thoughts on the actual movie. First of all, though, how many of you have actually seen The King's Speech? Anyone? April? No, Dope hasn't. Lynn has. Herman, have you? Yes, you've seen it. Okay, so we've got at least a few of us who have seen the movie. So it's quite an interesting movie because it talks about the British royal family. And of course, people tend to be very interested in all things royal. So let's see, who would like to start reading? Who is the fastest to put? Me! Okay, April, well done, very fast. Would you like to read the first section, please?
Thank you, Marianne. The King's Speech is an ugly distortion of history. In a critically and commercially disappointing year for the film industry, one of the few highlights has been the reception given to the King's Speech. The movie has been nominated for just about every existing award, and a BV of Oscar nomination are forthcoming. The period drama is also on its way to financial success. Like Stephen Frears' film from 2006, The Queen, which won Helen Mirren an Oscar for her eponymous performance, The King's Speech is a testament to Americans' continuing fascination with the British royal family. But unlike The Queen, which was merely simplistic in its portrayal of the monarchy, The King's Speech is historically inaccurate, entirely misleading, and in its own small way, morally dubious. Oh, I didn't know that. Why?
Wow, yes, so very critical, yes. So, bevy, does anyone know what bevy means? Or can you?
A bunch of people.
Sorry, what did you say?
Group of people.
I didn't catch that. Can you try again?
Group of people.
I still can't catch that. I'm sorry.
Group, bunch of people.
He said a group of people.
Okay, I didn't hear. Yes, lots of people. Okay, so when you have a bevy, you have a large group of people or things of a particular kind. Okay, so in some way they are similar. What about eponymous? This one I had to look up, I have to admit. I didn't know what that meant. Yes, Lynn, my father used to refer to having a bevy with his mates, going to the pub and having a few beers. Actually, we've got somebody who's still got their mic on. Is it Jay Lee? Could you turn it off, please? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, eponymous. What does that mean? No? Okay, eponymous, so I found out, is where when you have something or a person that gives their name to something. So it's eponymous hero of the novel was the example that they gave here. So in the context of our paragraph, where was it? It was, let's see where it was. Second. So Helen Mirren, right, the Queen, which won Helen Mirren an Oscar for her eponymous performance. So I suppose here we're talking about she perhaps, I'm not sure, but maybe because she was very queenly and regal, she gave a performance that was very much in keeping with being the Queen, for example. It's not a word that I've ever come across before. Maybe that's just my ignorance. So I don't think you need to worry too much about it. Okay. I think Nidhi volunteered very quickly as well to read. So perhaps you could read the next paragraph for us.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Can you see the paragraph?
Hi, Marianne. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I can see the paragraph. The film tells the story of King George VI, Colin Firth, and his battle with a speech impediment. Barty, as he was known, seeks the help of a speech therapist, played by Geoffrey Rush, and the two spend most of the film differences in social status be damned, bonding. By the time the credits roll, Barty has conquered his stammer, and the British people are well on their way to vanquishing fascism, the latter naturally having been aided by the former, thanks to an inspiring royal address from Buckingham Palace after the German invasion of Poland. This heartwarming tale plays out predictably and unsubtly. The King's Speech is one of those films that is not content to show us as friendship developing over 2 hours. No, the character must also tell us how much the friendship means to them.
Okay, thank you. Someone has just joined. Could you please mute your mic because I'm hearing sound coming from maybe background sound. I'm not sure who it is, but I only see a KA. Sorry about that. Okay, vocabulary. Impediment. What does it mean in this content? In this context?
Hindrance, hindrance,
Sorry?
hindrance, obstacle.
Yes, it's impediment means a hindrance, and we use it often when we're talking about a defect in speech. So in this case, we're talking about a stammer. Okay, so a speech impediment is more specific. It's talking about, yes, a hindrance, but it's talking about the fact that the person has a problem with their speech. It might be a stammer. Do you all know what a stammer is?
When you cannot speak fluently, you fumble.
Yes. Can anyone give me an example of what it sounds like to stammer? I'm not sure, but it's Yeah.
I would like answer on the
Yes.
question.
Exactly. Yes. Did you all get that? So the person is trying to say the word, but they can't spit out the words. Yes, very good impersonation. Okay. Any other words there that you weren't sure about? There were a few words. Let's see what else I've got. Yes, what do you understand when you see the phrase the credits roll? By the time the credits roll.
Time passed.
No. Okay. At the end of a movie, you've got all the names of the people who have done anything, from the person who made the tea right up to the director. And these are the credits. So it's giving credit to the people who were involved in the film. So when the credits roll, because usually they're shown like a rolling, you see the names flash past you on a roll. So when the credits roll, it's another way of saying it's the end of the movie. Yeah? Yeah, Hanan, you got it. Then vanquishing. If you vanquish something, what does that mean?
Extinct.
Sorry,
Extinct.
Okay, Hernan's got it again. Okay, overcome, conquer, beat. So there we're talking about vanquishing or conquering fascism. Yeah. And then the last one word that I was wondering if you got,
What is
unsubtly.
fascism? What is
Fascism. Do you know what fascism is? No?
No.
Okay. Let's see. Well, fascism is extreme right wing. So Hitler, and here we're talking about the German fascism. So we're talking about the 1930s when Hitler was in power in Germany. So in Britain, there were many people, including the British royal family, who actually were quite sympathetic. Now, it was never made very obvious, but some members of the royal family were actually quite in favour of fascism. But fascism is the right-wing politics that was made famous by Hitler, but not just Hitler. I mean, Hanan, you're from Spain. You had Franco.
No,
Yeah?
I'm Basque. Actually, we don't like Franco at all. We fought
Well,
Franco,
I don't think
and we
anyone
fought
really liked
and we
him.
fought the Nazi, and we fought Britain too. So we fought most people. No, I understand what you're saying. Franco
Yeah.
was a fascist, of course, and he was allied with
Yes.
Hitler and
And
Mussolini too.
ally. He was an ally, so he worked. He was in agreement with Hitler in the same way that Mussolini in Italy. And they all had their slightly different brands, their different forms of fascism, but they were very right wing. Okay. Okay, there was one other word here that I've got, unsubtly. Did you get, so Nidhi, did you understand what it meant by unsubtly?
No.
Okay. Can you guess, if you look at the word, so we've got this heartwarming tale plays out predictably and unsubtly.
Not planned.
So it's in
Suddenly?
the last, sort of the very last sentence of the paragraph. The King's Speech is one of those films that is not content to show us a friendship developing over 2 hours. No, the characters must also tell us how much their friendship means to them. So if you look at the word unsubtly, and you can see that the UN, now the UN in front of a word often makes it mean the opposite of the rest of the world with the word. So subtly If something is subtle, do you understand if something is subtle?
Means it's a smooth plant.
Yeah, a little bit, yes. If you look at, again, Henan has got it. It's subtle means that something is not so easy to work out. But if something is unsubtle, it means it's pretty obvious. Okay, so it's not subtle, it's obvious, it's straightforward. Yeah. Okay, were there any other words in that section that you weren't sure about or didn't understand?
I think it's clear now.
Okay, so Hanan, would you like to read the next paragraph, please?
Yes, thank you. And let me start. The only reason that Bertie managed to ascend to the throne in the first place was that his older brother David, aka Edward VII, I think it is, decided to abdicate so he could marry a Baltimore divorcee by the name of Wallis Simpson. In the film, Edward VII, nicely played by Guy Pearce, is presented as childish and cruel to his brother, which no doubt he was. And as a way of presenting his political views, we see him make a single foolish comment about the Nazis. What the film never mentions is that Edward VII was an ardent admirer of Hitler and of fascism, and a proponent of appeasement long after Germany moved onto Polish soil and hostilities began in earnest. Sorry. Edward leaving continental Europe with Simpson after abdicating, following the German invasion of France. He absurdly asked the Nazis to look after his house. Eventually, the British government convinced the couple to move to the Bahamas, where he became governor. The idea was to keep the pair far away from the Nazis so as to prevent Edward from cutting any deals with Hitler. The last we see of Edward and Simpson in the film is when they listen to Bertie's big speech. There is a beach in the background, but the viewer has no idea where they are.
Great, very good. Actually, it was let's see, the number is 8. Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
Roman numeral.
I think it's too early for me, and my view, my eyes are not, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. Apparently, I'm getting old.
No, and
I'm sorry, we are not used to. I mean, here in Argentina, aristocracy is not our thing. I mean, we are not. At least, I mean, I'm not impressed by the crown. I mean, I like history and anything like that. But sorry, Edward VIII.
We sometimes still see the Roman numerals on clocks, but we don't usually use the Roman numerals except in Britain when we talk about the name of a king or queen where there has been one before. Now, obviously, with Elizabeth II, two ones or two, they look like 2 1s. It's easy. Yeah.
Henry VIII. The eighth must be one of the most famous.
Yeah. So we've had many with the same name. Okay. So, right. Abdicate. What does that mean by abdicate? Do you know, Hanan?
To kidnap.
Yes, you're talking to me. To abdicate is when it's not the appropriate word, but when he resigns the crown in order to give it to someone else.
Exactly. And we can use abdicate in other contexts, but it's always used. We wouldn't say he resigns the crown.
No, yes.
We probably wouldn't even say he gives up the crown. We usually would say when it's a king or a monarch to abdicate. They give up their position. Okay. What about ardent? We've got an ardent proponent here. So what do you understand by that?
Ardent. I mean, I associate with fire, but I'm not.
With
I'm not
fire?
sure.
Oh, I'm not
No,
sure.
maybe no, maybe because I am mixing my languages. Sorry.
Yeah.
In Spanish, ardiente is similar, and that means
Okay.
like fiery and something like that.
No,
So
it's not
an
fire.
an ardent admirer, maybe could it be a
An
hardcore
ardent
admirer?
admirer. Sorry? Not
A
and nothing to
hardcore
do with,
admirer.
no, it's nothing to do with fire. So let's see. Okay, Marco. Marco's got it, I think. I'm not quite, I haven't made it quite as strong as that, but an ardent or passionate. We talk about ardent football fans, yeah? Or, yeah.
Die hard.
Passionate about the team they support, yeah?
And that is why I said hardcore, but maybe I was wrong.
No,
Hardcore, like
hardcore would be a bit different, I think. Yeah? Okay.
all right.
Proponent. What is a proponent? Does anyone know what proponent means? Okay, yeah, Shiny's probably got it more or less. I would say a proponent's like a supporter. Yeah. And what about appeasement? Now, appeasement's actually a very important word in this context. It has obviously a general meaning, but in the politics of this time, we always use the word appeasement. Yes, Nidhi, that's good. Okay, making someone agree, compromise. And for those of you who are perhaps not so familiar with the history at this time, one of the problems was that although Hitler was becoming very aggressive towards the neighbouring countries, nobody really wanted to pick a fight with him. So in general, the British government had a policy of appeasement. And this policy of appeasement meant that they felt that some compromise, some agreement could be reached without having to fight. Okay? And this was very important in the politics of that time. Now, we have here, okay, so we're talking about at the end of the paragraph, if I can get my cursor to sit still to get up, okay. We've got, okay, the British people are well on their way to vanquishing fascism. Then the author writes in a particular style here, to say, the latter naturally having been aided by the former. So fascism being the latter, I think last week we talked about latter, meaning the last or the second one, naturally having been aided by the former, so referring to the royal family, because, yeah, these royals were not all that against Hitler's politics, or not as against as we might have hoped. So then we have aided, thanks to an inspiring royal address from Buckingham Palace after the German invasion of Poland. So Poland was invaded by the Germans, yeah, and eventually, once that happened, it meant that Britain had to stand up, and that was when they declared war. Okay, but before that, parts of Czechoslovakia were taken by the Germans. Yeah. And nothing had been done to stop it. Yeah. Okay, I'm not sure. In earnest, do you understand what in earnest means? Something is in earnest. Yes, good, in Nidhi. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, but eagerly as well. If someone is eager and very keen to do something, they're very earnest. Yeah, it's also a boy's name. We talk about, but I think maybe the boy's name is spelt slightly differently, but I think it might come from the same. Okay, what about if some absurdly? If something is absurd. Yeah, it's weird. It's stupid. It's there's something. Yeah, it's something to be laughed at. Yeah. And if you cut a deal, what does that mean? At the end, it says they didn't want him to cut a deal. Yeah, settle or come to some sort of arrangement. Yeah. Because they were worried about his politics, that in fact that he was perhaps too sympathetic with Germany. Yeah. Okay. Oh, my mouse is not being very well behaved here. So who would like to read next? Dope. Shall I volunteer you? Would you like to read?
Yes.
Okay.
By short-changing the danger that Edward posed to Britain, the viewers is likely to believe he was no more than ridiculous and self-indulgent brat. But he isn't the only character who is sanitized in the movie. First, there is Winston Churchill, played by Timothy Spall in small role. Spall's critical scene takes place after the Simpson affair has become known. Churchill counsels Bertie and reports his childish dismay at the way Edwards is behaving. This will come as new to historian because Churchill astonishingly supported Edward throughout the abdication crisis. His grandstanding on the issue even shocked his allies, who couldn't believe that he would risk his political comeback to support an appeaser and faces like Edwards, most likely because of Churchill's historical standing. The film simply omits all of this and essence the heroic war leader in opposite position to the one he accurately held.
Good, well done. Okay, vocabulary. Did you understand all of the vocabulary there? There were a few phrases. Okay. Okay, can anyone tell me what they think it means by shortchange right at the beginning of the paragraph? By shortchanging the danger that Edward posed to Britain. Now, I'll give you a clue here because shortchanging, we usually refer to paying over money to buy something. Okay, but we're here, the writer is using it to mean the same sort of idea, but we're not talking about money here. So does anyone have any idea what it might...
They didn't pay enough attention.
Yes, very good. I think that is a good way of looking at it. So normally we would use short change to mean you don't get enough change back. okay, but minimizing, not really giving enough importance to the danger. Okay, if we talk about, we were talking about a self-indulgent brat, was it? Something like that. What does it mean by self-indulgent?
No, I don't know.
Okay, so self, we know that it's to do with your person.
Yes.
Yes, Marco, I think you mean like rather than live yourself too much. Love yourself too much, yes. Selfish, yeah? If you're self-indulgent, you're very selfish. Okay. And what about brat? Yes, badly behaved child. Okay, we talk about sanitizing things. So, Dope, going back to you, do you understand if something is sanitized?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay. Well, Nidhi sort of made it. She's given a hint, but sanitize is probably a bit stronger than acceptable. Ka, wherever you are, please turn up your mic. We're hearing music in your background. Are you there? Kartik, could you please mute your mic? Thank you. Thank you, Abby. Okay. If you make something more, okay, so for sanitizing, it's got the meaning of making something clean, yeah. But when we are using it in this context, we're actually making something, yeah, we're making it acceptable. We're removing things that are likely to be unacceptable or controversial. So when the news perhaps is made sanitized, it means that things are taken out of it to make it more acceptable. So anything that might be a little bit difficult or controversial. So yes, like a lightweight version of the character. Yeah. Okay, now, if we were talking about Churchill's grandstanding. What do you think that might mean? Anyone? And in this context, they're talking about political grandstanding. So can you guess from even taking the word grandstand, if you understand what the grandstand means? No?
I can only guess. It might be some opinion of society about him, how he portray him.
Well, let's look at a grandstand, okay? And I think in cricket as well, you would have a grandstand. But I remember when I was a kid, there was a program called Grandstand, which I found so boring because it was about sport. And I think it was about just football. And a grandstand is the actual, it's where the audience can sit and watch soccer match, okay? But here we're looking at it as where you're attracting the applause or support from spectators or the media. So we use this word when we want to, sorry for that, we use this word when we want to try and get people to look at us and give us applause. And in this sense, he's talking about political grandstanding. Yeah. And then the last phrase I've got here is a political comeback. Now, this should be very easy to work out. So what does it mean by a political comeback?
A get back?
Any sort of comeback. Hernan?
Yes, in a political comeback in this context, I guess. Well, on any context, is like when someone wants to reappear and to come again to public.
Yes.
And making a good impression, probably, or something like that.
And
grandstanding. Sorry, maybe if I can interrupt you and ask this. Grandstanding. I don't know if you know the expression "pour la galerie." I don't know if you use it.
Yes, it would be like for the gallery. So it would be exactly the same sense as that.
Yes, I thought it was.
Yes.
Thank you.
So you want the audience, and of course, in English, since a grandstand is where you have a big audience, and in Spanish, you would be talking about the gallery. And it's the same. Now, with Churchill, he had a period of time where his career went very badly. But at this time, he was starting to make a political comeback. So this is in reference to his political career. Okay. I'm struggling with my mouse again. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to ask now. I'm not sure whether we've met, Kartik, and since you keep putting your mic on, are you able to speak? Do you want to read the next section? Kartik, are you there? Okay. Maybe we will ask, okay, she's gone. Okay, so let's see. Marco, would you like to read the next section, please?
Okay, thank you. Bertie himself is also romanticized. He is seen presciently raising the question of German aggression before the invasion of the Sudetenland. Edward waves of Bertie's warning, and the next time we are instructed to focus on political questions, the king is heroically rallying his people to the battle against fascism. The film leaves out what happened in the intervening period. Bertie ascended to the throne at the end of 1936. 3 years later, he gives the speech of the film's title. In the time between these two events, the British government notoriously blundered and appeased the Nazis, most famously at Munich. Less well remembered is that after Prime Minister Chamberlain returned from giving away a chunk of Europe to the Germans, he was immediately invited to Buckingham Palace to appear on the balcony with the King and Queen. The latter is now better known as the recently departed but beloved Queen Mum. This was both a violation of protocol. The royals are supposed to stay out of politics, and an extraordinary endorsement of a prime minister whose foreign policy was disastrous. Much of the Labour Party was rightly furious. This despicable historical fact is less well known than it should be, but the film fails twice. First, by not showing it at all, and second, by implying that Bertie was staunchly anti-fascist from the start.
Very good, very good. Okay, rallying. Rallying, what does that mean? He was rallying right at the very beginning. Let's see. So he was heroically rallying his people to the battle against fascism.
I think it's maybe gather them around him.
Yes, he's gathering support, yeah? And if you wave something off, what does that mean, to wave off? He waved off. He waved off Bertie's warning.
I think it's a phrasal verb. It may be like refuse.
Sort of. Hanan actually says goodbye. Okay, say goodbye.
Deny.
So it's like, and April is saying the same. Okay, and in fact, yes, you've all got it. It's really sort of like, it's not important. Can you imagine waving your hand? Ah, no, it's not important. Okay, goodbye. Don't want to listen to it. I don't want to hear it. Yeah. Okay, if something is notorious, and I've spelt it wrongly, something notorious. So notoriously.
Like Hitler behaved notoriously, like notorious person, very harsh, very harsh.
No, notorious doesn't mean that he was a harsh person. A notorious, so the government notoriously blundered.
Criminals.
Do you also understand blunder? If something blunders, Marco. Okay, Nidhi has actually given it away. Okay, notorious is famous, and then blunder could be bad behaviour. A blunder is more of a mistake, a failure. Yeah. Okay. What about this violation? What is a violation? You can have all sorts of violations. Yeah, Nidhi's got it again. Okay. Breaking of rules or breaking. I mean, but breaking rules is usually what we talk about. Yeah. Okay. And going back to Marco, protocol, what does that mean?
Some kind some system of rules which you like.
Good. Yes. Yes. Maybe procedures. Yeah. What about endorsement?
I think it's like approval.
Yes. Good. Despicable. What is despicable? You despicable person.
Oh, something obnoxious, maybe.
Yes. And staunchly. If you perhaps support something staunchly, or you're a staunch ally. Did I see hardcore? Maybe. But that's not perhaps the best way I would explain the word.
Like die-hard fan when they support their team. They support that Bertie was supported these ideas so firmly, like maybe.
Yes.
Strongly, firmly, yes.
Okay, who would like to volunteer for the next paragraph? Okay, I'll pick on someone. Abby, you've been sitting patiently and quietly in the background. Would you like to read the last paragraph?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
The strange unwillingness of the king's speech to mention any of this is at least somewhat surprising for one reason. The actual arc of George VI's character would make a fine and interesting movie. Just think, a king fights against a stutter, and his dastardly treasonous brother while eventually slogging off his old instincts for appeasement. He even overcomes his distaste for Winston Churchill, the politician who bent over backward for that very same brother, and lends his steadfast support to Churchill's aggressive policy against fascism.
Okay, very good. Actually, it's not the last paragraph. I've got one more. I actually had to look up the word because the actual arc of George VI's character would make a fine and interesting movie. And I was like scratching my head a little bit because arc, as I understood it, didn't really fit. But I actually did find, and in fact, I had to search quite hard to find a definition, which I think this one is the closest to, because there is actually one definition where it talks about, and I'll share it with you because, as I said, it was quite a little bit obscure, where it talks about a story arc. So it actually refers particularly to a story where you've got this long continuing storyline. Yeah, so that's the only definition that I could find for the actual arc of George VI's character. Okay, because when I looked at it, I thought, well, curve, it's not mathematical because those are the more common definitions of that word. So you see, sometimes English can be quite a tricky language. But what does dastardly mean? Do you know, Abby? Dastardly. Yes. Nidhi's got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, dastardly. What do you understand by sloughing off? Sloughing off. It says sloughing off his old instincts for appeasement. If you think of a lizard or a snake, they slough off their skin.
Oh yeah, they get rid. Okay.
Yeah, they lose or they discard their skin. So there, the phrase is being used to sort of discard or to lose like their skin, I suppose. They're was it sloughing off his old instincts? So sort of like leaving behind his old instincts for appeasement. Okay, so he even overcomes his distaste for Winston Churchill. The politician who bent over backwards. What does it mean if you bend over backwards? Okay, it's quite a typical phrase we use. I bent over backwards for him, and he hasn't done anything to repay the kindness or whatever. No? Okay, when you bend over backwards for someone, you're trying everything you can. You go out of your way to help them. You really, try your best to help them. And it's quite a common phrase. If you are steadfast, Abby, what does that mean? If you are steadfast? Anyone? Steadfast. Yes, Marco's got it. Loyal, firm, constant. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we have, I think, one more paragraph. Yes, one more paragraph. And, okay, maybe, Nidhi, would you like to read for us?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Oh, wait a minute. You've already read once before, haven't you? Let's see. Who hasn't read and who would like to read? No one?
Maybe
I can
Lee.
read. I can read if I have a chance.
Okay, who is this that's speaking? I didn't see. I
Zdał?
want someone who hasn't read before, so maybe Shiny is being a little bit quiet in the background. Come on, Shiny.
She's sleepy.
I hope not. It is late, I know, for Shiny. What time is it in Japan at the moment, Shiny? Ah, maybe she is asleep. Okay. Is Naval here? Yes, I think I see an N. Naval, are you here? Would you like to read?
Okay.
Okay.
It's midnight in Japan now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so shall I start?
Yes, please.
Okay. Why wasn't this story told? No, why wasn't this story told? The likely answer is that even highbrow critics and audiences love to toast the House of Windsor, while the royal family may frequently appear more tawdry than anything else. Cheap American Anglophilia can always be counted on to provide thunderous applause. Take the Queen. Unlike the King's Speech, that movie was witty and compelling, but it also presented the Princess Diana phenomenon with a complete lack of distance. Viewers who wondered why the Western world came to a halt for 2 weeks solely because of an unexceptional woman's death were unlikely to find any answers from the movie. Now the King's Now the King's Speech has taken things a step further by not only simplifying its story, but grossly misrepresenting real events and people. Apparently, the life of George VI had too many shades of grey for a mainstream film.
Very good. Okay. Highbrow. What does that mean, Naval? A highbrow.
Highbrow. One second. I do not know, but I think that here it means severe. The people who criticize something very severely, like highbrow means, I think, a word comes to my mind, and that is furrow one's brow, right? Is this the
Sorry,
meaning?
but
Furrow your eyebrows.
yeah, actually, that's quite a good image of it. Raising your eyebrows. I think the highbrow we usually refer to like intellectual, people who think that they know a lot and they discuss things at a very high level. Yes, so maybe sophisticated and raising your eyebrows a bit at the sort of things they might discuss. Yeah. Then, if you drink a toast, what does that mean in this context?
Drink a toast?
Because I don't think they've got any drinks in their hands, but they toast. Oh, my mouse won't let me scroll up to see. Okay, so the audiences love to toast the House of Windsor. The House of Windsor means the British royal family. Okay, so they love to toast. What do you think that means? They're not putting the king and the queen in front of the fire to make them warm.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any idea what it might mean?
I think that it means to criticize them severely. This is what they're going to do.
No, it's like Hanana said.
Critics.
To celebrate. So you drink a toast, you're showing respect. Yeah. Okay. Tawdy. That's a nice word. Tawdy. Yes, Niddy's got it. Yeah. Cheap and showy. Okay, so that means that you might be wearing a fake fur coat, for example. So you're trying to show off, but it's actually cheap and poor quality. That's what tawdy means. Not corny, because corny is something which is like an old joke or funny, but sort of not that funny. And a leech, well, a leech is, apart from the insect that sucks blood, it could be a person that is trying to get things from you. So those two words don't really fit there. Okay, Anglophilia. Sounds like a very nasty disease. Does anyone know what Anglophilia might mean? Hanan, what do you think Anglophilia means?
Well, it's to, I don't want to say it simply, but to love or to adore, to appreciate everything related with England, with the British Empire.
I'm right.
And it will be the opposite of anything that would be a phobia and phobia.
Exactly. So I put there the opposite is an Anglophobe. So people that don't like English. So the French tend to be quite Anglophobe often.
Well, okay. I don't want to start making jokes, but the list could be longer than that. But
no, it's hundreds of years of animosity there. Okay, but some people, especially when it comes to the royal family, this is what I find so interesting. The whole world seems to be quite interested in the royal family. Okay. Now, the one last word I've got here is compelling. If something is compelling, what does that mean? Oh, thank you. You've got The Crown there. Now, that's the TV series. Is that the same as the movie, though? We'll look at that at the moment. First of all, compelling. If something is compelling, what does that mean? Yes, Naval, perfect. So something that really captures your interest. And this is what the royal family tends to have an effect of evoking interest. People tend to be interested, particularly Diana. My God, the stories that were all going around about Diana. Now, one of the comments they make in that last paragraph, if you note, was they compare the Queen, which I watched, and I wasn't going to watch at first because I'm not all that keen on the royal family. But I found the Queen an exceptional movie that was done in a very sensitive way, showing the character of the Queen in a very sympathetic light that actually made me feel a little bit more sympathetic to her. Okay, and this is from somebody who is not a royalist. But it makes the comment that it didn't really present Princess Diana, the Princess Diana phenomenon, with a lack of distance. And so viewers who wondered why the Western world came to a halt for 2 weeks solely because of an unexceptional woman's death were unlikely to find any answers from the movie. Yeah. In London, her funeral was on a Saturday morning. I was moving flat at the time. In the morning, it was very weird because I suddenly realised I couldn't hear any noise at all. And I lived in central London and the whole city was totally silent. There were no cars in the street. There was nothing moving. It was really strange. Everything was closed. In the afternoon, sorry about this. Okay, the dog has shut up. In the afternoon, things started to move again, but I have never heard a whole capital city as big as London go so silent. And that was the effect on the day of her funeral. Now, you don't get any answers in The Queen with relation in relation to Princess Diana. The Queen didn't like Princess Diana. And yeah, they don't really say much. But that movie was actually much more, perhaps more realistic in a way. And perhaps the King's Speech was a bit simplistic. Yeah. Simplistic. It was just showing really a certain aspect of the relation between the speech therapist and the king. I think probably to think that it was an accurate portrayal of the historic events at the time, no, you won't get that. But the film itself, I have to recommend. I think the English spoken in it, they speak at a fairly slow pace. The accents are very easy to follow. So it's actually quite a nice film to watch. And I would suggest you probably should be able to try it without subtitles even. I showed it to some Tibetan students, and I had students who were complete beginners in English watching it. We had the subtitles, but they were able to understand the film quite well. Okay. And in fact, some of them came with some very interesting questions about the film and what it portrayed after. So we're out of time here. I suggest that you watch the movie. The Queen, as I said, is also an extremely good movie if you're interested. And I always think that movies are a very good way of helping you with your listening skills, and also to hear English being spoken, especially in a film like the King's Speech, where the words are pronounced in a very clear and very good way. So there won't be a session on Friday because I'm travelling back to France. But from next week, the sessions will be back to normal. So I say bye for now and see you next week.